Got it. Yeah.
Red. Fine, we are now live. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. This is Nicholas Vince, and we're going to be chattering about original versus remake. As you can see at the foot of the screen, hopefully there should be a few guys. There is going to be one lady as well, Sandra. She's going to be joining us in a couple of minutes. But just before we get started on the original versus remake of The Evil Dead, I just wanted to say thank you to Kelly Rawn again. Kelly gave me another T-shirt.
Awesome.
So thank you, Kelly, and special shout out to Jen and Sylvia. So what I would just like to say is I had a wonderful evening yesterday evening at the launch of the Leviathan documentary about Hellraiser and Hellbound, organised by Dead Mouse Productions. Just an amazing evening. Met Ken Cranham and Barbie Wilde and Selwyn, who was our first assistant director. I have not seen him since we wrapped on that movie. It was quite an emotional evening, and there's some great documentaries as well. Like Jeff Portis was there, Roy Putty from Image Animation, John Cormacan. These are some very, very insightful documentaries. I do recommend getting hold of Leviathan if you can. So good morning, and Gary will be joining us, hopefully with a couple of other people from Dead Mouse later in the month. Other guests that I've got coming up and just being confirmed, and Tristan Risk is going to be joining me at the end of June. I'm really excited about that, as well I am with all my guests, but Tristan, a great admirer of Tristan's work. So Tristan's going to be joining me. I had a couple of suggestions immediately after I put the call in to Liam Regan, who is the director of Banjo, who, if you know, he's been over in Cannes this week and had a sellout screening, buyer's distribution screening at Cannes. So I'm really excited to hear how that did for him. Sean Evans will be with us in a couple of weeks, in 3 weeks. He's from Back to the Movies and an app called Night Terrors. And then next week I'm going to be talking to Alex Matheson and Damon Rickard. In fact, Damon might be joining us. I'm not sure if it's Annette or if Damon is joining us. And they co-wrote and directed the tour, which stars Jessica Cameron and Heather Dorff. Now, if you find that event and you haven't seen that short film, there is a link to a special excerpt to the tour on the Google event. So if you want to know a little bit more about the short film before we join that call, that's already set up for you. And it's a great movie. I've seen the entire thing. It's really interesting. They're also working on something else called The Package. Anyway, so those are all my announcements, apart from to say that there will be no show on Sunday the 30th, at the end of the month, which is the 31st of May, at the very end of the month, because I'm going to be at my nephew's wedding. So I shall be away. Right, fine. I've just been given, my wonderful assistant has just, Fernando has forgotten everything. Fernando, I'm not sure where you've forgotten everything. I hope you're okay. I'm just going to invite Damon again. So we are going to be talking about, invite Damon Rickard again to come and join us. Let me just see, Sandra's there. Okay, what I'm going to do first off is just expand this screen slightly so I can see everybody. Cool. If you'd just like to introduce yourselves, and I'm going to start with ladies first, and that's Sandra. Would you like to introduce yourself, Sandra?
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
So my name's Sandra, and I'm basically just a huge horror fan, and I decided to join this podcast with the lovely Nicholas and friends, just to talk about the remake versus the original, and that's pretty much it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll then go to my friend Derek. Derek, you'd like to introduce yourself?
I'm Derek. I'm from the Scottish Geeks. I run a YouTube channel where we do a lot of horror games and rage games. And sometimes they kind of coincide with each other, but I've been a horror fan since, I can't remember when. Literally. I can't remember when. But anyway, yeah. So basically I'm on a search through this channel to see if there's any horrors out there that will properly scare me, because it's a very rare thing.
Okay, and Derek and I are working on something in the background because we talked about horror games. So Derek and I are working to see if we can work out how I can be playing a horror game with you guys watching me go. As is my usual want with horrific things. So that should be good fun. Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
What, again? Oh, okay.
Yeah. We weren't live before.
I'm the troublemaker of the group. I'm always the one like I'm always getting muted because I'm always such a troublemaker. But yes, hello, my name's Jonathan Hughes. I'm the warehouse employee. Hopefully, I was a cinema projectionist for 8 years, hoping to be so again very soon. I'm 3 days away from going to Crypticon Seattle to meet the Oscars and Jess Cameron and Rutger Productions as well. I'm just here. I kind of suggested this to Nicholas a few weeks ago when he started doing the remakes for the originals with The Fly. And I'm a big fan of both movies, and I'm very happy to be here this evening.
Cool. Thank you very much. Don, you're next to Jonathan, so I'll go to Don next.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Don. I'm a musician from up here in Canada, and yep, I've actually just started into doing scoring films and such. Keep your eyes open in the underground for a couple coming through. But other than that, I love my horror. I have a bone to pick with this one, so it's going to be fun.
Cool. Excellent. All right then. Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing about that. And lastly, Alex.
I'm Alex Tim, not to be mistaken for Tim Alex. I'm just a big horror nut, and I particularly am looking forward to this discussion about the remake versus the original. Living in Virginia, United States, just looking forward to this conversation about the Evil Dead.
Okay, cool. All right, so what I'd like to do is, could you all just raise your right hand so that it looks as if you're about to... Oh, you can't because he's holding the phone. Okay. Okay, so that's the original. This is not going to work because people are holding things. Okay, what I want to know is, are you a fan of the original, the remake, or both? So just before we start, very, very briefly, and Damon's just joined us.
So right hand is original, left hand is remake.
Yeah, absolutely. But basically, if you have got both hands free, I should have checked this before we started, are you a fan of both? Just the original or the remake? And go.
If you're a fan of both, put the phone in between your legs and raise both.
Damon's there. Hi, Damon.
Okay, well, then I go.
Really well thought out, wasn't it, folks? I thought that was subtle. Now, I can see Damon, but I can't. Damon.
Yes.
Hello, Damon.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, okay. Weird.
You can see your avatar.
I've got my webcam.
I see him with his headset on.
We're in a Star Wars shirt.
Yeah, we like your Star Wars shirt. Yeah, I think you've just got a weak. You may just have a weak signal at the moment.
No, it is.
I'm using my Ethernet today.
Oh, you're using your Ethernet today.
Yeah.
Okay, good lad. Good lad. Damon, would you? Right, just be. I'm going to ask the same question again in a few moments, but I'll just ask you very briefly to answer this question. Damon, would you like to introduce yourself? And then would you like to tell me if you're a fan of the original or the remake, or both? Yeah?
Okay. I'm Damon Rickard. I'm co-writer, director of the tour, and I've also got a new short coming up with the package. And I am a fan of both, but I prefer the original.
Okay, cool. That's fair enough. I'm not going to come back to Alex in just a few minutes. Okay, so Derek, in 1 or 2 words, original or remake?
Original, brand new, fantastic, and remake, cliche.
Remake, cliche. Okay, Sandra, in a couple of words.
I prefer the original. I thought it was sort of like a breath of fresh air for that time. Not that I would know I was before my time, but exposed to it wise, I thought it was fantastic. As for the original, the remake, I should say, it has good elements to it, but it doesn't hold up in comparison to the original.
Okay. All right then. Okay, cool. That's been Jonathan, original or remake or both? Very
Well,
briefly.
of course, original, because after all, this is comparison, but I am a strong fan of the remake as well, because it came out at the right time, but I will go into that later on.
Okay,
But yeah.
a little bit later on. Okay, Don? No, don't rant yet.
Okay, I will do my best.
My God.
I am a humongous fan of the original, and the remake has more. It's like the Swiss cheese as far as plot lines go with horror. So I'll get into that more later.
We can explore that a little bit. Okay, and Alex, are you original, remake, or both?
I'll make it short and sweet. Original is a staple, and the remake is a homage to the original.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense. I have to say, I watched both. I had thought I'd seen the original, and I thought I'd seen it. I thought I'd seen it originally when it first came out, and then I realised I hadn't. I'd seen number 2. The movie I saw and remembered was the second one. But
Technically, I think the second one was a remake of the original.
I think,
Yeah, because the original was his college thesis almost, and then he had more funding to do the second one, so he pretty much remade the original.
Yeah.
You just be Evil Dead.
That's very interesting. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's very okay. So I'm going to. All right. So try and keep this straight. I know, Don, you've got there's a lot you want to say, and we'll come back to this idea that is number 2, the remake of the original. But Don, go on. You've been dying to tell me this for ages. Go ahead, Sunshine.
Oh, which part? My rant on the
Go on
the remake.
Let's hear this rant. Go on.
Okay. Well, the remake I was originally against in the first place. I didn't think they should do it, but I had a friend of mine who's also a huge Evil Dead fan, and he goes, "You know what? Give it a chance." So I even tried to look at it as its own film. Like it's not even an Evil Dead anything. Like it's its own film away from the rest of the series. Okay. Which in that case, the first 3/4 of it is fantastic. A couple continuity errors here and there, but it's the ending sequence that drives me absolutely insane. Because it does not add up. Number 1, he says right in the middle of the movie when they're reading out of the book, this demon, whatever it is, needs 5 souls. 5 souls in order to come, rain blood, and do the whole da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It only gets 4, unless you count the dog. Because Mia has her soul taken, but the uneducated college guy, or not even college, but the uneducated sort of high school dropout, Walter White's together a big, huge, defibrillator somehow, and brings her back to life, and so she gets her soul back. So it no longer has her soul. Because it's not like she came back as kind of like a woozy sort of not there. She came back as Mia. She came back as herself. So therefore she had her soul back. It no longer had her soul. Plus, if you watch, the demon came back before her brother died, therefore didn't have his soul yet. So It didn't have all the souls to come and do the big, huge, humongous ending sequence. That was my number 1. That's my number 1 problem with it. The other ones were, if you look at the originals, whenever Ash would get possessed by the demons, he chops his hand off and does that whole thing, and then when it leaves his body, he's there with, the stump of an arm and everything else. In this film, Mia's possessed by the demon, and she takes the nice little utility knife, does the whole slicing of the face and slitting of the tongue. Like, you get that tongue going into 2 different directions. There's no coming back from that. Mm-hmm. But as soon as she comes back and the demon leaves her body, she's like flawless. There's not a mark on her.
Yeah, all the makeup and everything's intact as well.
Yeah, and it's like they were spot on with the prosthetics. They were spot on with the effects were amazing for practical effects. But it's the continuity errors that was just like, no, it doesn't work that way. There were things that just didn't add up, and those are my 2 main beefs with it. There's other ones, but I won't get into that. But that's my huge rant, is that the ending sequence did not, like, they should have really, really looked at the script and looked at the writing to say, all right, well, if this thing's going to come, she can't, like, it needs to have the 5 souls, so it needs to come after the other dude dies if they're going to say that it still has her soul, even though she has it back and is running around being the heroine after being technically dead 20 minutes beforehand. But still, like, it's that little bit at the end that was just kind of like, oh, dude, you guys dropped the ball huge. Because up until then, it was going to be a fantastic film. I really was actually enjoying it, and that ending sequence destroyed the whole thing for me.
Right. No, absolutely.
End rant.
I think, personally, I don't know what the others think, and I shall come to you in just a few moments. I just need to see the note. Sorry. Sorry, I just wanted to get. I knew there was somebody else trying to get in, and I wasn't able to get hold of them. I just wanted to try it again. So, anybody else agree? Different views. Sandra, what's your view on this?
My view on the remake. Okay, I'll start with the good stuff first. I thought that they really tried to sort of bring it up to date a little bit. So I love the idea of going to a cabin with your friends and then, you know, having Mia try to help her sort of rehabilitate and get off the drugs. I thought that was something different than, you know, they didn't stick to the plot, to the exact plot line and the exact same story as they did as they would have. Some remakes, they just basically make like a carbon copy. I like that they kind of try to change up the story a little bit and add some flavor to it and not necessarily just copy the original. So I loved that about it. I loved the relationship that they had, like the brother and sister relationship. I loved that they sort of updated it in the sense, there's the scene where one of the girlfriends comes and she starts throwing, they have the nail gun and just like throws, and then the nail gun goes off on the boyfriend or whatever. I thought that was fantastic. I loved that. It was, you know, it was an upgrade from instead of a pencil into an ankle, it was, you know, let me nail gun the heck out of you, basically. What bothered me, so they had me up until, you know, I'm agreeing with Don. They had me up until probably the last third of it, I would say, when, you know, the guy goes and all of a sudden conjures up this defibrillator and then brings her back to life. That's when they lost me. But I continued to watch, and I've rewatched it since plenty of times, and overlooking that whole defibrillator part where I just thought was pushing it, and I didn't see how that could. I know it's a horror movie, but to me, I was just like, no, you got to be kidding me. The girl's been dead for God knows, like for how long already, and now he's gonna dig her from her grave, pull out the defibrillator that he sort of made. Homemade defibrillator, and then all of a sudden bring her back to life. I thought that was a little bit over the top, but I kept watching because I thought the practical effects were fantastic for the last third of it. Taking away the holes in the story, I thought, you know, seeing the blood rain come down, I thought was fantastic. I enjoyed that, and just seeing her kind of kick ass at the end, even though she was dead and technically should not have any energy to do anything. I thought it was fantastic just to see her take that saw and just hack the hell out of the demon. And in the whole scene of the blood rain coming down, it's all red, it's soaked in red. I automatically thought a little bit of Suspiria because of the redness, the tone to it, and just kicking ass. And I think that's because I love the idea of the final girl and just seeing her sort of go above and beyond to kill the demon. So for practical effects and just for the whole kick-ass factor, I thought the ending was awesome for me, except, you know, taking away the holes in the plot. But so
yeah, I think one of the interesting things in the documentaries about the first one and the extras on the Blu-ray on the first one was saying what made Evil Dead interesting was actually you had a male protagonist. The fact that Ash was your hero rather than Last Girl Standing, or you know, it being a girl who's who's attacked by Freddy or whoever it is and being stalked, and you have a strong female. Actually, having Ash at the center of the story was unusual for the time, and kind of what made it different. And basically, Sam Raimi did everything possible to hurt him. Seemed to be the way of actually just making that movie. I'm going to bring in some other guys and please just shout out, but one point from Emerald Gore. Good or bad idea not to have Ash character in the remake? Now, again, looking at the DVD extras, and I'll throw this one out there to anybody, should there have been more Ash? I mean, should we have had a Ash?
I don't think
David
so.
kind of becomes
No.
an Ash. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex, yeah, sorry, you wanted to say something?
I don't think so. Like I said, I still think this is a homage to the original, not even a remake, really. Not even a reimagining. It was just more, let's make the original better, but let's not do the same thing. But as for the question about should Ash have been in it, I don't think so, because it was a female-led main character, and just having Ash's approval after the credits was plenty of Ash for this film.
Yes, it's interesting. I mean, basically, it was produced by Bruce Campbell, Rob Tapert, and Sam Raimi, so they were all behind
I
it.
believe that Bruce and Sam were on set helping with everything, and I believe the actual producer was the one from the original.
Yeah,
But I think they just assisted production too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, in fact, Bruce Campbell's contribution was to email everybody just before all the actors to say this is going to be really tough. It's going to be a really hard process making this movie, but you know, which it would be. Don, what are your? Sorry, not Don. I'm Damon. Sorry, not Don. Damon. What are your thoughts?
I think I'm actually with Alex on that one. That I think that the new one, I don't really see it as a remake. I went into it thinking of as just a continuation in the Evil Dead saga, rather than a remake of the first one, because it's a completely different set of characters. It's under different circumstances. It's a different story. So to me, it just feels like another addition to the Evil Dead list of films. So I try not to compare it to the original too much, because there's so many differences in there that, other than the fact you've got the demon in there trying to get them all, it is a very different film. And I do find it funny that in a film where people are essentially being chased and possessed by demons and hacking each other up and everything, that the over the top and the hard to believe bit is a defibrillator. But
Yep.
Yeah.
But I love the first one. I prefer the second one, and I do see the second one as a remake of the first one, because it is essentially the same story, just bigger. But this new one, I felt that it was a group of people just trying to come along and say, hey, look, here's another part to all the Evil Dead films to enjoy. Don't try and compare it to the original, because it's not. The original one stays as it is. It's a great film, and let's leave it there. And I think not having Ash in that helped in that respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the ending was just a seal of approval of Ash,
Yeah.
and that's all it was, seal of approval.
Well, again, on the Blu-ray extras, Bruce Campbell was saying that he didn't actually get on board with the idea of doing a remake until they said, we've got a story, it doesn't include Ash. And what I like about the remake is the fact that it's the same cabin. You can see Ash's car, destroyed car in the woods there.
I think there's about 18 actual things to hint towards the original. The car, the cabin, even though it's not the same cabin. I don't even know if this cabin actually had a basement in the remake, because the original didn't, but they made it look like it did.
Yeah, no,
I know there was part two that had
others. I
See, what
can't
I
think
think is
of
it was a sort of continuing. It wasn't a remake of just the first one. It was the first and second combined. You see, and the whole thing with the defibrillator. What you got to remember is this one is the defibrillator, and in the second one was Ash, a guy who had absolutely zero skills, zero sort of, shall we say, street smarts, as it were, who punches a demon in the face, coming along, grabbing a chainsaw and hooking it together to fit onto his wrist. So,
with help, because he doesn't do it by himself.
Yeah, duct tape.
Do that.
Yeah,
Well,
duct tape.
Ash's character, he is not the smartest character, which is why he's a genius in Army of Darkness.
yeah.
Yeah. He knows how to make in the what was it, 13th century using a chemical book or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I
as long as
think
it
it's basic
Kind of
chemistry.
like medieval style, like oh, never mind. Like back in the day. It's like okay.
Doing like the flasks and the whole reanimator thing, and like 13th century America.
I think
Yeah.
it's like
It's
just
still a matter
any
of
sort
fact.
of
Just
film.
watched old kung fu movies as well, like old the one Tarantino's watches. Those ones. It's funny as hell.
Okay, it's interesting. I mean, there's a couple of things, and I just wanted to introduce and invite Philip into. Hi, Philip. So you just joined us during all that. Hiya. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine.
Good. Good.
Here.
You've been listening to this conversation. What are your views?
On the Evil Dead films,
Mhm.
I like the original quite a lot. I am not a fan of the remake. I didn't know what I was expecting going into it. But it was. I don't know. I thought it was. I think the original is it's a far more enjoyable film in its blend of horror and comedy. And the remake was much more straightforward. There wasn't as much comedy in it. I don't think there was any comedy in it, and that didn't really work for me. It just became kind of a dreary film for me because of that. It was a lot of gore, which was interesting, kind of unusual to see in a movie today, I suppose. But it was kind of like just watching a surgery, It was like, okay, I don't really want. It's like I don't like blood. I mean, like, I like horror movies, but I don't want to watch, people getting their limbs ripped apart all the time, and I mean, it got to the point where like, okay, this is so over the top now, and it became gore and gore and gore, and it had none of that. That Sam Raimi-ness, I suppose, with the original. Which is what makes the original so enjoyable, and and the demons in this one, I guess the makeup is better than the original, but I prefer the look of the original, the Deadites in the original film. I didn't like the contact lenses they gave them, those red, yellow, like they just look really goofy to me. The white ones were just. There was something really unsettling about those. So you couldn't see their eyes really. So yeah,
the actors couldn't actually see out of those contact lenses either. They were scleral and they were, they were completely blind, and they were hard.
Yeah,
and they could only wear 15 minutes at a time.
Yeah, and also I just want to say the demons were in this one. It's something I noticed. Like they were really they love to swear in this one. Like it's like they're much vulgar than
foul mouth.
Also,
they're potty mouths, and I'm like, I don't think that was the case in the original. They weren't Reagan from The Exorcist, which is my problem with the remake. They were just Reagan clones, all of them. And I
imagine those like someone come up to one of the demons going, "Shh, no."
Yeah, it's like back in 1974.
Pardon me.
Back in 1974, that was, oh my God, hearing a little girl swear like that. But now we have like the remake here. We got these, what are they, teenagers, 20 something, and it's like, I mean, they would probably swear even if they weren't possessed. I mean, it's like I don't understand the swearing part. It's not scary. It's just goofy.
Right.
And
okay.
In the beginning. Who knows?
Jonathan, we haven't heard. What are your views on this?
Well, what I can say about the Evil Dead remake is it came out at the right time. I felt there was a lot of horror remakes that were very disappointing coming out at the time. There were a lot of good horror movies, mainly in independent scene, American made. But at the end of the day, there were a lot of horror remakes weren't cutting it. And then Evil Dead came along. Immediately, we were all like, "No, don't do this! But then it got, it happened with the approval of Bruce Campbell and everyone. And like I said, one of the original producers got involved on it. So we were a bit, okay, fair enough. And then you see the first image of her underneath the basement. And you're like, okay, this looks good. And then you see the trailer trailers, and you're like, all right, yeah, okay. I got more and more on board with it, and then I saw it opening night, of course. And yeah, I was very impressed with it. I like the idea of, like Sandra was saying, about drug addiction, about them going over the weekend trying to help her recover. And in a lot of ways, the movie is about battling your demons in a way. There is a message kind of behind this movie, in a way, about battling the demons within you, whether it's drugs or alcohol, whatever, like that as well. And yeah, I thought it was very. I loved the violence, the gore. I thought it was fantastic. It was pretty freaky, scary. But yeah, the defibrillator thing was a bit over the top. But then so is building a freaking arm chainsaw like they did Evil Dead 2. So they had to do something a bit over the top, I felt. But overall, I really liked Evil Dead the remake. But of course, it's not going to beat the original. The original, when we're in comparison, the original is a cult classic. But beloved by everyone. So yeah, I think it's brilliant.
Okay.
But a remake came out at the right time, and I do love the remake. I think it's brilliant also.
Cool. I think one of the things I really enjoyed about the remake was the beginning of it, at least, was the fact that it kind of felt very kind of naturalistic. In comparison, it felt very modern, a very sophisticated take on the movie, and I kind of believed the idea, because why do people go into abandoned cabins in the middle of the woods if not to help their sister recover from her drug addiction?
I can think of a couple, but yeah, okay.
Why do sensible people go into? What I was just going to say, I was going to bring up I'm going to come to Derek in a few. I haven't really asked Derek a lot. I'm just going to share something from our friend Mark Logan, who was on the show. Nicholas, watching the remake is a great little film, but I don't think it belongs in the Evil Dead series. It feels as though it belongs more as a companion piece to Cabin in the Woods. Imagine if Cabin in the Woods,
That's a great example.
if they never actually discovered the facility. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting take on it. Derek, what's your view of this?
Well, I'm going to ask a question first to the entirety of the group. Who wanted to punch Eric?
Eric.
The guy with the long hair and the glasses?
Oh, God.
Oh.
Yeah.
I liked it. You always have to have that one, can I swear, asshole that that just tries to make everyone else believe. How do I put this? He's the one character that knows what the hell he's talking about, and the rest don't listen.
Yeah, no, it was more like I've done this horrible thing, but everything horrible's happening. But I'm not going to tell anyone what I did. I'm just going to stand back and watch and go, that was nothing. No.
That's just a
Dude, there's one in every movie.
Yeah.
I still like them.
Yeah.
But as for the film itself, as for the remake itself, there was a lot I liked about it and a lot that I really didn't like about it. Now, what I liked about it was the pure fact that to me it felt not like a remake, not like a reboot. It felt like it was set in the same universe, and it basically, for some reason, I got it into my head that this book, every so often, replays the same events over and over and over. Okay, because if you remember the Evil Dead 2, there was a picture of a figure, not Ash, a figure holding a chainsaw up. Okay, this one, the same things happened again. It was slightly different because it was different reactions from the people who were in it. But that's what my thought was it wasn't the same movie. It was like that universe, and you could have had Ash walking up at any point in this film just for a laugh, going, "Crap, I'm late." That kind of thing.
But this problem with it, I mean, the book in the original they burn the book, and this one they try to burn it and it doesn't work. So how can it be in the same? It can't be a sequel.
But you never saw the book actually burning the whole way.
Yeah.
And who's to say there's only one book?
Oh yeah.
Well, there's 3 books in Army of Darkness.
There are 3 books. I mean, a book like that has survived centuries and centuries, and it's going to survive some burning. It's made from human flesh. It's demonic. It could heal, It could add chapters to itself. But one of the other things I really liked about it was the fact they used physical effects over CGI. There was some CGI in it, but there was a hell of a lot of physical effects, and I miss that about movies these days. You know, all these physical effects, they just make it more realistic to me. But what ruined it for me was they tried to be too serious with it. That was my main problem, was they tried to be too serious, but you were watching it, and with Evil Dead 2, you weren't shouting at the screen, "Oh, come on!" You were sitting there going, "Come on!" You know, it was a different sort of "come on" sort of thing. Like, you were rooting for the characters in the original, and this one you were thinking, "Oh, just hurry up and die." You know,
So you had really very little sympathy for them at all in that case.
yeah.
They should have brought back the green garden hose from the original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't. Sorry, I've missed this entirely. The green garden hose?
Yeah, they're in the effects of the original. The scene went so well, the green garden hose that spurts blood everywhere in the original was actually in the scene by mistake, but they kept it in.
But that's what I mean. That was some of the charm about it. There was mistakes, but they left them because they knew it was something like The Evil Dead. It should not be a wholly serious film. It should be something that interjects seriousness with a little bit of comedy, even if it's just slapstick horror comedy, but not to such an extent where people go, "Oh, I don't believe this," but to the extent where people could sort of breathe a sigh of relief every so often. This one was just, it was trying to pile it on, like, bump, 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 bump. But the point you got to the end of it, you were like, you know, you kind of just expecting everything to happen.
One of the biggest things I would have loved to see in the remake is the, what is that, like claymation from the original, where the
Oh god, that was brilliant.
Like, you can have as much CGI as you want, but that claymation looking stuff is just so cool.
Also in this remake, is it just me, or did anyone find that the trees weren't as frisky this time around?
I think they were trying to be sexy.
They were trying to be, but
I was expecting one to hold up a little blue pill.
Well, was the remake shot in a real forest, or was it a soundstage?
I think it's a real forest, I think. By the looks of the no, it's a real forest in New Zealand.
I think it was a forest, yeah.
Yeah, it's on location. It's definitely on location. It's not as harrowing as the first look at in terms for the cast and the directors and the crew for the first movie, which was just a really, really bad experience. I'm just going to bring in another comment from outside, if I may. This is from, and incidentally, Fernando Manzanelli has been posting a lot of comments agreeing with you and about the dog having a soul, etc. And Sam Raimi is really over the top.
Come on.
We count the dog as having a soul. Okay, yeah, that makes up
You
a lot
have
of
to,
time.
because there's no other souls to count.
Exactly.
But unless you count all the other souls that have been written just not that night. A lot of it comes, this is from Darking, a lot of it comes down to which you watch first. Some movies hold so much nostalgia for people. Is it that the movie is good, or a fondness for that point in their lives? Now, I think it's a really good question. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about this. Is the fact that we love, because I watched The Evil Dead, as I say, for the first time effectively yesterday, and it looks really dated. I know what you mean by the claymation. It's fun, and it is scary. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the opening sequence, the whole thing with the cars, and there is an awful lot of the imagination and the timing and so on really builds suspense. But the one that I actually found myself identifying with the characters and caring most about was actually the remake of the first three quarters. I really got into these characters and why they come up, and the fact, the guy that everybody wants to punch has obviously got a crush on David. Some unresolved issue.
I was definitely rooting for Mia in the remake. The rest I could care less about.
I could totally identify with Scotty in the original.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he's a fascinating guy. But what do we think about this idea that basically it has a lot to do with when you first, and it's the nostalgia for the first point,
I-
that point
I
in your life?
Personally, I think it's a lot to do with that. I think that, I mean, if you go back to when we would have seen remakes, things like The Fly and The Thing, we didn't worry about the original. We were just like, oh, this film's excellent. And there were probably people from those times that had nostalgia about those films going, I can't believe they've remade it. I can't believe they've done this to it. Made it so gory, made it so graphic, made it just something that we're not used to. I think it's impossible for us to get a right perspective on that because we've got such a fondness for the film. We can never watch it for the first time now with the way horror movies have moved. The only thing I think you can say with it is from the films like Evil Dead and the directors that were coming out around that time, they changed the horror genre. They did so much for it that the remake hasn't done. The remake is just another film in amongst horror films. It's not been revolutionary. It's not changed that. It's not gone, here, you can be a young guy out of film school with a really small budget and make this fantastic film which is going to last for 30 years or so, or longer than that. But I think because we saw it at a time when we had no comparison for low budget filmmaking, it was just like, oh my god, this is something I've never seen before. It's amazing. These days, that sort of film would look, people would watch it and just go, okay, I don't really get what's so great about it. I've seen plenty of stuff that's got better effects, it's got better acting, it's better writing, because they can't grasp the fact that when people made this, there was nothing like it around, and they were really pulling originality out of the air.
The fact they were using a shoestring budget for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the real question is, you got to think about the ones that saw the remake and don't even know the original exists. They don't even know it's a remake.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
No, that happened to me on the train the other day. I'm sorry, I may have mentioned this before.
It's just people.
People will see the most recent, and I do wonder, again, in one of the DVD extras, somebody was making the point that horror film viewer generations last about 7 or 8 years. Every 7 or 8 years, you get a new generation of people coming into watching horror as they reach their teens, and really getting into horror. And that's, the fact that Evil Dead has survived so long, and the franchise is still going, and we've now got the TV series. Musical. Oh yes, I'm sorry, we haven't mentioned this.
Big game.
Hold on.
PlayStation game. Oh.
If you ever get a worms open,
who's seen the musical? Don's seen the musical. Sandra's seen the musical. Anybody else seen the musical? Sandra, tell me about the musical. What's the
soundtrack? I have the
the musical is just freaking fantastic. If you have the opportunity to go, just go and sit in the blood splatter zone and just enjoy. It is fantastic. I recommend it. It's like therapy. You go there and you laugh your ass off, and then you get soaked with fake, blood. So win-win. It's a win. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Sounds like a night in Glasgow.
Except for the, oh my god, oh, it's so cool, oh my god!
Yeah, that sounds like a night in Glasgow.
I think the songs are amazing.
Yes.
For the musical, What the Fuck Was That? That's one of my favorite tunes off of that.
I love it.
Nicholas, if you haven't listened to the musical album or soundtrack, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely worth checking out.
I've seen clips on YouTube, and it looked really good fun. And in fact, the Soska sisters, I remember that was a few months ago, were telling me that they'd just come back from sitting in the blood splatter zone in the front, and how much. This is why the T-shirts were covered in blood.
Yeah, I remember that. The Valentine's one, isn't it?
And Fernando has just made a very interesting comment. I'm just going to bring in this comment from Fernando. If I may, I think if he hadn't discovered Bruce Campbell, Evil Dead wouldn't have had the charm that it has today. How much do we think that this really does just rely on Bruce Campbell?
I think 70% is Bruce Campbell and 30% is Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi created the style, but Bruce created the film.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. In the first one, you look at the first Evil Dead, anybody could play Ash, really. There's nothing really distinctive about. I mean, I think that was like Bruce Campbell's first real movie as well, so he was still, I think, learning how to act at that point. If we get to Evil Dead 2, yeah, I mean, like, I can't imagine anybody else but Bruce Campbell in that role, definitely.
I don't think they would have found anyone who's taken quite as much punishment as Bruce Campbell would have done to his best friend kind of thing. It was like, hey, do you want to get dragged across the floor by your face? Yeah, fine. Then another, we're going to drag you across the floor by your face? How much?
Very much
can I say...
here's a question based off of that. If you only saw the remake, never saw the original, would you think Mia would become an iconic character for that Evil Dead? No. Not knowing the originals ever existed. So exactly, that's my point where I think Bruce made that.
The ones that remake
I would say
interchangeable.
Yeah, 50% Bruce Campbell, 60% Bruce Campbell, 30% Sam Raimi, and 10% Ted. Is it Ted Raimi? His brother. Yeah. He wore fucked up costumes.
The two brothers on the side of the road.
Evil Dead 2, because Ted got heavily involved in some of the Evil Dead making of as well. Ted Raimi.
So does anybody? Sorry.
No, carry on.
I was just wondering if anybody actually thinks that we feel more fondly of the Evil Dead because of Evil Dead 2, because they created that iconic Ash character in Evil Dead 2 rather than Evil Dead. In the same way, I think that Mad Max is more fondly thought of because of Mad Max 2. So people go back and go, well, I love Evil Dead, but all their favourite memories come from Evil Dead 2. I know mine do.
I'll be honest, I'd rather watch the second one than the first one.
I'll be honest,
I've watched the second one more times than the first one.
I think Ash is the most iconic in Army of Darkness, because every one line in the film, and I think Army of Darkness actually boosted the first two.
I actually saw Army of Darkness as a prototype Xena. I don't know why. I felt they kind of undercut themselves by making it like more mid-teen friendly than the.
It's a comedy. Yeah. It's not horror. I mean, it's horror comedy, but it's more comedy, and the originals or the first two are more horror, with just a little slight,
it seems lost
humor.
Connection.
It's strange. A friend of mine watched Evil Dead 1 and 2 recently, and she couldn't get through Evil Dead 2. She thought it was really annoying. She was just like, what is this? Is this a comedy or something? And she preferred the original. So, and actually, a lot of my friends prefer the original because they just don't like humor in horror movies. So there's that kind of audience.
More 1 and 3. 2 was the only thing I enjoyed about 2 was the portal at the end that turned into the third movie. If they would put that portal at the end of the first one, I would have been fine with the first one in Army of Darkness. That's it.
I'm the exact same way. The first one, I'm not too big on the second one. The second one just seemed like, okay, here's the first one with a bigger budget.
Yeah, exactly.
And Army of Darkness literally picks right up where pretty much where the first one should have left off, and the first one just has so many more classic scenes. And again, I come back to the tree rape scene because it's something you don't see every day.
We're discovering a new fantasy for you, Dom.
I know. I mean, what is it called? An abracophile, I think it's called, something like that.
Yeah.
Why do I know that? I don't know.
It's a new fetish. Don has a fetish for raping for tree rapage.
Okay,
which way round?
No, but it was funny.
Which
It was funny because at one point in time she looked like she was enjoying it, so I laughed so hard I cried.
Oh my god.
So, what we found the men in the white coats.
I'll be in a rubber room soon.
Don, advancing women integrity in horror films.
No! Oh Lord, no! I wasn't meaning that. But like she's screaming. If you watch the scene, she's screaming. She's in pain. And all of a sudden, I know she's like, oh, and there's oh all over again. There's a moment there where she's like, oh, part of the humor, right?
About the first movie.
But what's that?
You're talking about the first movie.
Yeah, the first one. The first
movie. That's very interesting because, of course, Ellen Sandweiss was saying that she didn't know about the very final shot of that sequence until she sat down at the premiere with her mother, because they had it they had that very final shot of that sequence afterwards. She reckons that was all done in post-production. She knew her legs were going to be drawn apart. I have to say, it was Craig who pointed out to me that when I was watching, he said, "Oh yeah, because this is."
I feel really bad that I've taken this conversation to a very dark place.
Well, I thought it was very interesting. I was wanting to. Sam Raimi was prosecuted in the United Kingdom and had to appear in court because of Evil Dead.
Really?
Yes.
What?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was prosecuted in the UK, and Rob Tapert was saying in the
the 1984 video recording of that
Sheffield
thing.
or something. It was under the Obscenity Act.
Yeah.
You can watch it on. You can watch something. There's something on YouTube with Sam Raimi in the UK. He's on a talk show or something, and he's like, the people sitting there going like, "Why did you make this misogynistic movie?" Or So I've seen that.
Yeah, and therefore Evil Dead 2, as more humorous, was kind of a reaction to the negativity that was brought about that. We're coming to the end of our time in a few minutes. I just wanted to do a quick shout out. This is a birthday shout out to Rain from Emerald Gore. Happy birthday. Please don't sing a happy birthday because it is still copyright. But if we could all just say happy birthday, Raven. Happy birthday, Raven.
Happy birthday, Raven.
Happy birthday, Raven.
Happy birthday.
Let's see if I can come up with a last-minute birthday poem out of nowhere.
Okay. All right, then. So I think this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation, guys. Thank you so very much indeed for joining me this evening. I'm sure we could carry on talking about this for a long time. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
I had a very, very strong reaction when I posted up this.
You're going to have to do a part 2 or 3.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like Evil Dead 2, I'm good.
What I am going to do is do an original versus remake on The Thing at some point.
Original versus remake versus remake.
Versus remake.
All three.
Remake.
Yeah, that's the point. Which one are we talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking of the earlier two rather than the most recent one. I was thinking of the black. Yeah, yes.
The guy in the rubber.
Well, I'm sure we can cover all
the book
three.
into it as well.
Say again?
You got to bring the book into it as well. The book was
I've got to bring
amazing.
the book into it as well. Yes, absolutely.
Nicholas, it would be great to also maybe discuss the original Halloween versus Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Ooh, that would be
Halloween 1 or 2.
We could go down this huge list of originals and remakes, and I think we'd probably get the same reaction.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, okay.
That would be interesting.
That's fine. I'm quite happy to add that to the list. I tend to put them in where I know I can't get other things. That sounded terrible. That's not what I meant.
Sam Raimi, if you're watching this, he doesn't mean it. He loves you.
What I'm trying to say is, when I know I can't get guests on board, then I can have these hangouts where I get to chat with all you guys, is what I'm trying to say.
And we love chatting with you!
Right, this is now officially 8 o'clock my time. Listen, this has been so much fun. I really want to thank everybody who's joined me this evening, including Philip, who's got a copy of the book. Do not start reading from that book, Philip.
Baratu.
I said the words, yeah, basically.
This Google Hangout is now officially being taken over by demons.
Jedi.
Alex,
Jedi.
Damon, Don, Philip, Jonathan, Sandra, Derek, thank you very much indeed for chattering with me. This has been Nicholas Vince. I've been chattering to all these wonderful people about the original versus remake of The Evil Dead and Evil Dead. Join me next week when Don and Rickard will be here again.
Don.
Well, Damon.
I was gonna say I'm not here. Is that like me and Damon's like secret love child that nobody knows about yet? I mean, what?
It's my legs and your top, Don.
Oh God!
I tell you, the professionalism on this show from me, absolutely amazing. You're next to each other. You both begin with D, the brain. You know, it doesn't go. Do keep a lookout for the Leviathan Hellraiser documentary. It really is some extraordinary stuff that I had not known before, and I've known these guys for nearly 30 years. Learned an awful lot from that documentary. Anyway, I'm going to end this broadcast. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and I'll hopefully see you next week with Damon and Alex Matheson. Take care, guys.